A warm welcome to your Barbados Today Evening news for Friday, December 11th. Government is getting the thumbs up for its decision to establish a national minimum wage. Last evening, Prime Minister Mia Mottley announced that draft legislation has already been prepared and a national minimum wage will be in place by April next year. President of the Barbados Private Sector Association, Edward Clark, told Barbados Today the social partnership has been discussing the need for a national minimum wage.
We're not surprised that there's a national minimum wage being proposed or planned now. So I think we all agree that the wages at the lower end of the scale need to be addressed. We know in Barbados the cost of living is very high. It's very difficult for people to make ends meet. Let's say it's 25-hour minimum wage. One thing we need to ensure is that there's no corresponding ripple effect people's expectations at the level above the minimum wage level, because the country cannot withstand further increased costs with no revenue or reducing revenue and no increase in productivity. So they're hopeful that the increase in labour rates now at the bottom scale will certainly help allow us to work on increasing our productivity and presenteeism and so on in the labour force.
Meanwhile, President of the National Union of Public Workers, Akani McDowell, welcomed the move, but he called for the discussions to extend beyond the need for a minimum wage.
We believe that the establishment of a minimum wage threshold is something that we support because there are some unscrupulous employers out there who have been paying employees less than what they deserve. And when we say what they deserve, we're talking about less than what they would need in order to meet their basic needs. However, we are of the view that the discussion needs to be taken beyond the establishment of a minimum wage into a realm where we are now discussing a living wage. Now, when we speak about a living wage, we're really speaking about the amount of income that is necessary to sustain a decent standard of living. And we're talking about the income that would be adjusted for the employee based on the country's inflation rate. So there are a number of things that go into the concept or the establishment rather of a living wage.
The 15th session of the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD 15, will now be held in Barbados from October 3 to 8, 2021, with pre-events starting from Friday, October 1. Prime Minister Mia Mottley made the announcement today at Alara Court during a virtual joint global update with the UNCTAD Secretary General, where they addressed member states, UNCTAD Secretariat officials and the media. UNCTAD 15 had been slated for Barbados in October 2020, but because of the COVID-19 pandemic, it has been rescheduled until April 25 to 30, 2021. Mottley said that because of the unfortunate reality of COVID-19, it's necessary to seek a further postponement.
Despite our best efforts, the second wave of COVID-19 infections has grown more intense and more deadly in hotspots across the globe. It became increasingly apparent that however safe we believe Barbados to be, and however much effort we put into keeping it so, as we are doing, this could not of itself motivate participants to travel to our country in the numbers to transact the important business of UNCTAD 15 in a meaningful way. That is, through fully participatory in-person sessions, face-to-face. Nor could we, simply by wishful thinking, counteract the apparent deficit in the substantive preparatory process at the Geneva end, where progress has been severely impacted by the continual lockdowns and by the difficulties of pursuing intense negotiations in 6 languages across a virtual platform. We need to have taken that into account. We all accept that for UNCTAD 15 to be successful, it must have strong levels of in-person attendance in Barbados and equally strong policy proposals that would form the basis for deliberation and action by our ministers.
3 members of the Barbados Defence Force today became the newest recipients of the Barbados Star of Gallantry for their sterling service and work during the initial months of the COVID-19 lockdown. The 3, Lieutenant Anderson Goodridge, Captain Donville Dash, and Lieutenant Rudolph Morris, along with personnel from the Ministry of Health, were on the front line of the pandemic from the outset. At a news conference today, Lieutenant Goodridge, a member of the mobile testing team, says working on the cruise ship was an unforgettable experience.
The experience for me, going on board the cruise ship again, we didn't know what to expect. Obviously, had challenges to getting up there and getting on board because of the open seas and weather conditions. Some things were not favorable, so they had challenges in getting on board. Because of the training and discipline and the nature of the job or the mission, we successfully got on board, and we were met with curiosity. However, there were times when we never expected to be in this position, or to be in a position where we are on board a cruise ship testing several persons. But that aside, we were able to get on board, we were able to test these persons, we were able to get the results, get these samples back to the lab, and it was basically a continuing process evolving all the time. So again, my experience there was a learning tool for me, and to be honest with you, if I have to do it again, I certainly will.
Captain Donville Dash, who was the officer in charge of the Health Services Platoon at the BDF, attributed his award to his BDF team members and officials from the Ministry of Health.
It is a reflection of those individuals who I command. Because without those who I command, and they were not doing their jobs the way that they're supposed to do, I could not receive this. And the way how we work in the military, which is a team-oriented approach. So what you are saying, I'm going to describe it like you probably heard the cliche term, the tip of a spear. Right? So we maybe tip of the spear. Without that shaft operating efficiently, we would not be here.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To regional news, Jamaican businessman and former treasurer of the People's National Party, Norman Horn, today resigned as an opposition senator. Horn had been recommended for appointment to the Senate by former opposition leader Dr. Peter Phillips on September 14. However, he indicated in early October that he would not take his seat in the upper house, but would instead allow the new party leader Mark Golden a free hand to make the appointment.
He says the decision was made after lengthy discussions with family and close friends. On the matter of his U.S. citizenship, Mr. Horn says this can be a lengthy process, further complicated by COVID-19 protocols. He says, as occurred with a former PNP senator in 2012, it is common practice that the renunciation process is completed following the appointment to the Senate. He adds that after the announcement that there would be an election for a new party leader, he decided not to further pursue renunciation. He admitted that despite not having taken an oath, he was remiss in not delivering his resignation to the Governor General in keeping with his statement.
On the international scene, European Union leaders reached a hard-fought deal today to cut the bloc's net greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by the end of the decade.
Droughts, heat waves and pandemics. As the fallout from climate change intensifies, so are the efforts to curb it. The European Union agreed to cut greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030 as compared to 1990 levels. That's a jump up from the previous 40% target in a bid to reach net zero emissions by 2050, as greenhouse gas emissions are a key driver of climate change.
All EU countries should benefit from the transition with economic growth, a cleaner environment and healthier citizens. The European Green Deal will be our growth strategy.
The agreement means that renewables will double their share of power production. The bloc will invest an extra €350 billion into low-carbon energy, and there'll be a push for more electric cars. And the EU will restrict carbon permits, making it more expensive for companies to pollute. The new measures come a day before the 5-year anniversary of the Paris Climate Agreement. Protesters marked the anniversary with this socially distanced demonstration. And the architect of the Accords also says not enough has been done to tackle the climate emergency.
That's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media and bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.